Okay, picture this, the intensive care unit. It's about as high stakes as it gets in medicine. And one of the most nail-biting moments for any patient is trying to breathe on their own again after being on a machine. Getting that transition right, well, it's one of the trickiest challenges a doctor can face. So let's dig into this.
And we're not talking about a handful of people here. Every single year, more than 13 million people globally get put on a mechanical ventilator. It's an absolute lifesaver, no question, but it's never supposed to be permanent. Which brings us to the big question, the one that doctors wrestle with constantly. How do you know the exact right moment? How do you give that patient the absolute best shot at success? This whole process is called weaning, and getting the timing right is just crucial. Go too early, you're looking at major complications. Wait too long, and you risk things like pneumonia. For a long, long time, there's been a real debate about the best way to pull this off.
So at the very heart of this medical mystery are two completely different methods, two different philosophies, really, for helping a patient start breathing on their own. So on one side, you've got the old reliable, the workhorse, pressure support ventilation, or PSV for short. It's straightforward, it's used everywhere, it gives a fixed, steady level of support for every single breath. Think of it like cruise control in your car. Then, on the other side, you have the new kid on the block, the Smart Challenger, Proportional Assist Ventilation Plus, or PAV Plus. This one is way more sophisticated and actually senses how hard the patient is trying to breathe and adjusts the support accordingly. It's kind of like power steering. It only kicks in to help as much as you actually need it.
Now you'd think the smarter method would be the obvious winner, right? Well, it just wasn't that simple. For years, different studies kept giving different answers, some saying one was better, some saying the other. It left doctors in a really tough spot, without a clear answer.
And this quote from the research just hits the nail on the head. There was ongoing uncertainty. And when you're talking about life or death situations, uncertainty is the last thing you want. So a group of researchers decided, you know what? It's time to settle this once and for all.
And what was their secret weapon? Something called a meta-analysis. Basically, instead of doing one more study, they decided to combine the results of all the best studies that had already been done. By pooling all that data together, they could get a much more powerful, much more reliable look at the big picture.
And let me tell you, this was a massive job. They started with hundreds and hundreds of studies. Then they had to painstakingly screen every single one, checking them for quality, making sure they were up to snuff. They tossed out any that were flawed or didn't meet their super strict criteria. In the end, out of all that searching, only 7 of the absolute best, most rigorous trials made the final cut. But those 7 trials represented data from over 1,200 patients.
So, after all that digging, all that sifting, what did they find? Well, they finally started to see a much clearer path forward, a clearer answer to which method works best.
All right, let's get right to it. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Did that smarter power steering approach of PAV Plus actually get better results than the old cruise control method?
The answer? A resounding yes. And what's so cool here is how clear the result is. With the standard method, PSV, about 44% of patients were weaned successfully. Not bad, but look at the group with the smarter method, PAV Plus. That number jumps all the way up to 50%. That adaptive support made a real, tangible difference.
To put one number on it, the PAV Plus method led to a 12% relative increase in weaning success. Now, 12% might not sound like a huge number, but in an ICU, an improvement like that is a really big deal. It means more people breathing on their own, and sooner. But, and this is a big but, that wasn't the whole story.
Because, look, while PAV Plus was clearly better at getting people to breathe independently, the researchers looked at a bunch of other important things too. And what they found adds a really important twist. This new method wasn't some kind of magic fix for everything.
And this table really spells it out. So even though more patients were successfully weaned, PAV Plus didn't really change the chances of needing to go back on the ventilator. And maybe most importantly, when you look down the list, it didn't make a difference in mortality rates either in the ICU or the hospital. It also didn't shorten how long people stayed in the ICU overall.
So, let's put all these pieces together. What does this actually mean for the future of care in the ICU? What's the big takeaway from this massive investigation?
I think this sums it up perfectly. PAV Plus is, without a doubt, a really promising tool. It gives doctors another great option in their toolkit, and it clearly improves the odds of weaning success. But it's not a silver bullet. The fact that it didn't change those other big outcomes tells us that the most important thing is still the individual patient. The best choice is always going to depend on that person's specific condition and their unique needs.
And that kind of leaves us with this huge, fascinating question for the future, right? This study is a perfect example of a smarter, more adaptive technology making a real difference. It's a step toward more personalized medicine. So you have to wonder, as our technology keeps getting smarter, more responsive, just how personalized can we make medicine? How closely can we tailor it to the unique individual needs of every single patient?